Well, just moving on, given the Holy Father's post-synod reflections on the relationship of young people to the church, and their call to be the church and live as disciples, what would each of you identify as the most important priorities, directions, or actions to take? What are the challenges, and where is their hope here? There's a lot to that question.
Well, I think one of the most important priorities is that friendship with the Lord. Because the first and foremost thing before you take on responsibilities or things in the church to do is to first have a relationship with the Lord and that friendship that Pope Francis was talking about. And once that is built, then it gives them that drive and that purpose and that love and that passion to follow through with those challenges. And then where's the hope? I have a pretty optimistic view of Catholicism and where we're at, just because I see how when it's fully lived out, it is so attractive, and I think it's attractive to anybody. And if they see it fully lived out, I think everybody would want that. So I have a pretty optimistic view on where it's going, and that there's so much hope. It's a matter of just living it out, right? And I see so many young people who are striving to do the best they can to live that out, and working towards that. And when it is lived out, it just, I think, multiplies, because the joy just spreads. And when it's lived authentically, it's very attractive.
Yeah, that's one of the opportunities of our age, I think, today. I've heard it called a post-Christendom age. I've also heard it called an apostolic age. But whatever that means, like, one thing we know for sure is that if we're just going to drift along with the culture in 2019, like, we're not going to be drifting into the church. We're going to be drifting out of it.
Yeah.
So, like, any young person who chooses to live their faith today has to do it with a real intentionality and intensity, too. And so you don't have people that are really lukewarm. Like young people in the church, there's not a lot of lukewarm young people. I think the ones that are still here, we have Christ at the center of our life, and we're ready to lay down everything and drop our nets and give everything to follow him. And I think that's what you were speaking to. Like, that's when you see that lived out, it's very attractive, very engaging and life-giving.
And I find Pope Francis in the exhortation honors that culture of Catholic young people that are very alive in relationship with the Lord. And he's trying to lay out a very wide scope to be missionary to those who have different sort of affiliations or ways of belonging. And he's putting the net out wide, and he's putting a challenge out to us all as well to open wide the doors, so to speak. And when we get to the section on youth ministry, he really pushes us in terms of being, inclusivity is a big word today. Well, what does it truly mean in our Catholic tradition to be fully inclusive in the Lord's eyes? So great topic.
I think you're right about the hope. Like, even the first line of the document is Christ is alive, he is our hope. So I find that same hope that you're talking about scattered throughout this document. Especially on the note of Jesus and the friendship with Jesus being the main thing, there's a part in here where Pope Francis just mentions how the idea of religion is a bit iffy to some young people, but they're still really captured and intrigued by the person of Jesus. So that's a really beautiful inroad to have there. Like, how convenient that the one thing we want them to have first of all is a relationship with Jesus, from which follows all of like the rule following. And I've seen that in working with young people, seeing the name of Jesus, like even just saying the name Jesus, you're like really uncomfortable, or you're like, "Ooh, he's awesome," but like it always has some kind of reaction. And like when you tell young people about Jesus, like, did you know Jesus was a carpenter and he lived in Nazareth this many years ago, and this is who he was and why he came? They listen. I think that's like what we're looking for we want people to idolize, like even all of the celebrity worship in our culture, like we want to know things about people. So what can we tell them about Jesus, who is a historical person? It's just like there's so many beautiful meeting places. Or the passion for justice, like all this environmentalism. Like, why is the earth beautiful and why is it worth protecting? But why do humans have dignity? And that's why we protect and honor the earth. So many meeting places.
That's a big point. How does the relationship with Christ and the kerygma underscore what we do in terms of our youth ministry, our education, our sort of a larger life in the community? It's a big theme.
If I could return just quickly to the call to action, and just when we were chatting, Jerome and Clark both mentioned about the witness, and when you see that lived out well, and to me it just seems more and more that that witness comes first and foremost from the adults and those who are leading the young people, and especially just emphasizing the parents' role and the church's role in leading well and in being that witness. And because young people respond so well to the witness of the faith lived out, but if those witnesses are few and far between, we miss that opportunity to show the young people what the faith could be. And so especially even just parents, that call to action for the importance of the family being part of this conversation, and not just their children, but as we work best when we're all together in that witness.
I just really want to affirm the mentorship that goes on in the Diocese of Saskatoon in so many ways, in Catholic schools and in healthcare in our parishes and in many other things. Sure, we have challenges, but I'm really impressed with most of them are informal mentors. People take mentoring really seriously here and do a great job on it.
While we're looking ahead to what could we do better and what more could be done, I think this document is also a great affirmation that we are doing things, because most of these suggestions I have experienced in my life. Like, people have been those mentors for me. People have shown me where to find Jesus. So Saskatoon's a beautiful diocese.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, for me in my life, like, I am where I am now just because of the people that have been in my life, and it's really just for me to think about that. It's profound to think of all the people God has put in my life, and even my family is just it's been such a blessing.
Yeah, and I like how he sprinkled examples of young people throughout the document.
Yeah.
Like, I think he ended chapter 1 by listing, there's a whole section where he listed a bunch of young people. And then there was one section that he ended by using the witness of some young person I hadn't even heard of before, and I haven't had a chance to look him up yet, but it sounds like he had an amazing life, and I wanted to make sure I could get through the document. But now that I've been through it, I want to go back and kind of look up some of these people. Like, I recently so 2 weeks ago it was the feast of the, about 2 weeks ago it was the feast of Pier Giorgio Frassati, and so it was mentioned at Mass, and I was like, oh yeah, I should look into his life again. So I listened to a Lighthouse talk on my way home that day, and I was so inspired by his life. And I think he died when he was 24, so he was a young person his whole life, and he was mentioned in this document too, and along with so many other people that live such an amazing witness to the faith.
Yeah, I remember I read a book on Pier Giorgio Frassati when I was maybe 16 or 15, and still to this day, it's one of my favorite books. It just totally lit me up, and I was able to see the faith lived out so well from a young person, and that's why it's always inspiring reading more about the saints, especially young saints, because they're just such good examples and witnesses. And even if people aren't in our lives physically through just being a part, it's still learning from them through books or podcasts or reading up on them, like the saints, and those can be powerful people in our lives who are not here with us physically, but still we can still learn from them. So for me, that's definitely been a big part in my life, is learning from people through books or reading and podcasting.